The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with angry voices. Admiral Crixtal slammed his four-fingered hand on the metal table, making the other alien leaders look at him. His red eyes glowed with fury as he stared at the holographic display. Floating above them, 7 fleets, he growled through his sharp teeth. 7 of our strongest military forces have vanished without a trace. All of them had the same target, that small blue planet called Earth. The other council members shifted in their seats. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others had skin that looked like rocks or metal. They all shared the same worried expression on their strange faces. Commander Zexai of the Trilopod species stood up on her 3 legs. Her large head bobbed as she spoke in a high voice. The pattern is clear, Admiral. Each fleet that went to Earth simply disappeared. No distress signals, no battle reports. Nothing. She touched a button, and new images appeared in the air. Crystalline Hive sent 50 bioships 2 years ago. They had weapons that could melt entire cities. Gone. Another image showed massive dark vessels. The Skarn Worklands followed 6 months later with their battle cruisers. Also gone.
More
Ships appeared. The Nethi's Shadow Fleet tried last month with invisible attack ships. They vanished too. An old alien with gray skin and no hair raised his thin arm. What about the others? The Brutagen clans, the Ethereal Conclave? All missing, Zexai replied. Every single ship and crew member. It's like they flew into a black hole and disappeared forever. Admiral Crixtal paced around the room, his heavy boots making loud sounds on the floor. This makes no sense. Earth is a primitive world. Their technology is thousands of years behind ours, so they barely have space travel. They still use chemical rockets to leave their planet. Maybe that's what they want us to think, suggested a creature that looked like a giant spider. Maybe they're hiding their real power. No, Zexai said, shaking her large head. We've been watching their communications for years. They really are as primitive as they seem. They still fight wars with metal bullets and explosive bombs. They haven't even learned to use energy weapons properly. She pressed another button, and human voices filled the room. The aliens listened to radio and television broadcasts from Earth. The humans talked about their daily lives, their work, their families. They complained about traffic and weather. They laughed at silly jokes on entertainment shows. They sound so normal, whispered a small alien with blue fur. It's not like warriors who could destroy entire fleets. Admiral Crixtal stopped pacing and stared at the display showing Earth. The planet looked peaceful, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans and green continents. Then what happened to our ships? Where are our people? It's what we need. To find out, said the leader of the council, an ancient being called the Prime Observer. His voice was deep and slow. I propose we send an investigation team, not to attack, but to learn. We must approach carefully and discover the truth. The room fell silent. Many of the aliens looked scared. The idea of going to Earth frightened them, even though they didn't want to admit it. Who would lead such a mission? Asked the spider-like creature. The Prime Observer's old eyes looked around the room. We need someone brave but careful. Someone who won't make the same mistakes as the others. Commander Zexai stepped forward. I volunteer, Prime Observer. My species has the best stealth technology in the galaxy. We can get close to Earth without being detected. And if you disappear like the others, Admiral Crixtal asked. Then at least we'll try to send back information before we vanish, she replied. We'll use long-range communication arrays, constant contact with the Council. If something happens to us, you'll know immediately. The Prime Observer nodded slowly. Very well, but you won't go alone. This will be a joint mission. Each species will send one representative. Together, you might succeed where others failed. Over the next hour, the Council selected team members. A warrior from the Brutagen clans, a scientist from the Crystal Empire, a spy from the Shadow Collective. Each alien brought different skills and technology. As the meeting ended, Zexai studied the files about Earth one more time. The humans seemed so weak compared to the mighty species that had tried to conquer them. They had no energy shields, no laser weapons, no faster-than-light travel. Their largest spaceships were tiny compared to galactic warships. Yet somehow, 7 powerful fleets had vanished trying to defeat them. "What are you hiding, little blue world?" she whispered to herself. 3 days later, the investigation fleet gathered at the edge of galactic space. 5 ships, each equipped with the most advanced technology their species could provide. Stealth generators that could make them invisible. Shields that could withstand star explosions. Sensors that could detect a single atom from light years away. Commander Zexai stood on the bridge of her ship looking at the star charts. Earth was still weeks away, even at their fastest speed. She felt nervous, which was unusual for her. She had explored dangerous worlds before, fought space pirates, and survived black hole storms. But something about this mission felt different. Her communication officer, a young trilopod named Hexfer, looked up from his station. "Commander, we're receiving another transmission from Earth." "Put it on the speakers," she ordered. Human voices filled the bridge. This time it was a news broadcast. The humans were talking about their weather, their sports games, and something called a movie premiere. They sounded happy and carefree, completely unaware that alien fleets had been trying to invade their world. Or were they? Zexai listened carefully. Did she hear something in their voices? A hidden confidence? A secret knowledge? She couldn't be sure. "Set course for Earth," she commanded. "Maximum stealth. We're going to solve this mystery once and for all." 5 ships disappeared into the darkness of space, heading toward the small blue planet that had somehow defeated the galaxy's greatest military forces. Behind them, Galactic Council waited nervously for answers. None of them suspected that Earth had been preparing for their arrival for months, that humanity had developed the most powerful weapon in the galaxy, one that no alien species had ever encountered before. Captain Lisa Martinez looked out the window of the orbital defense platform as Earth slowly turned below her. The blue and green planet looked peaceful, but she knew that somewhere in the darkness of space, another alien fleet was coming. Her team had detected the ships 3 days ago, moving toward Earth with the same stealth technology that 7 other fleets had used. "They never learn," she said to herself, then turned to face the briefing room, where her officers waited. The room was filled with humans wearing dark blue uniforms. Some were military officers, others were scientists, and a few were what most people would call diplomats. But Lisa knew they were much more than that. They were Earth's secret weapon against alien invasion. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lisa began, walking to the front of the room, "we have another visitor coming. 5 ships this time, representing different alien species. Our deep space sensors show they'll arrive in about 2 weeks. Major Kevin Hayes, a tall man with brown hair and kind eyes, raised his hand. "What do you—" "We know about them, Captain." Lisa pressed a button, and images appeared on the wall screen. "This is a trilopod ship. Trilopods are very smart, but they think they're better than everyone else. They believe only they can solve difficult problems." She pressed the button again. "This is a Brutagen vessel. They're strong fighters who respect power and bravery above everything else." She showed 3 more alien ships. "We also have a Crystal, Empire Scout, a Shadow Collective spy ship, and something new, a ship from the Observer Corps. They're not coming to invade this time. They're coming to investigate." Colonel Amy Foster, a woman with short black hair and sharp eyes, leaned forward. "Investigate what happened to the other fleets." "Exactly," Lisa nodded. "Which means we need to be extra careful. We can't let them discover our secret until we're ready." Dr. Kevin Hayes stood up. He was younger than most of the officers in the room, but everyone respected his knowledge about alien behavior. "Captain, should we activate Protocol 7? Lisa smiled. "Already done, Doctor. We've been preparing for this investigation team since we detected them. Now let me remind everyone why we're so successful against alien invaders." She walked to the center of the room and looked at each person. 5 years ago, when the first alien fleet arrived, everyone on Earth was scared. We thought they would destroy us with their advanced weapons. We prepared for war. We built bigger guns and stronger shields. But then, something amazing happened. Lisa pressed another button, and the screen showed a recording from 5 years ago. A massive biological ship hung in space above Earth, shaped like a giant insect. It was beautiful, and terrifying at the same time. The crystalline hive came first. Lisa continued. They sent a message saying they would harvest our planet and use humans as workers. Their queen Zyrax expected us to surrender immediately. Instead, Captain Jake Turner did something no one expected. Human spaceship approaching the alien vessel. It was tiny compared to the bioship, like a mouse walking up to an elephant. Jake didn't bring weapons, Lisa said. He brought something the aliens had never seen before. He brought human music, human art, human stories. He showed them what we create when we're not fighting wars. Amy Foster remembered that day. Had been a young lieutenant then, watching from the command center, as Jake Turner's small ship docked with the alien vessel. Everyone thought he was crazy. Everyone thought he was going to die. The Hive Queen was expecting to meet savage warriors. Lisa continued. Instead, she met Jake Turner, who spent 3 hours playing her symphony orchestras, showing her paintings and reading her poetry. She had never experienced anything like human creativity before. The screen showed the alien queen, a tall creature with 4 arms and skin that looked like crystal. She was crying, actually crying, as she listened to a human song. The Hive valued harmony and beauty above everything else, Dr. Hayes explained. But their own culture had become cold and focused only on efficiency. They had forgotten how to create art for the joy of creation. When they heard human music, they remembered what they had lost. Lisa nodded. Queen Xerox abandoned her invasion plans that same day. She asked if her people could stay and learn from us. Now they live in the asteroid belt, making the most beautiful art the galaxy has ever seen. They're our friends and allies. The screen changed to show another alien fleet, this one filled with dark, angular warships. The Skarn war clans came next, Lisa said. They were different from the Hive. They wanted to fight, wanted to prove they were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. So Lieutenant Commander Danny Brooks gave them what they wanted, but not the way they expected. Amy Foster smiled, remembering Danny's crazy plan. He challenged them to competitions. Not just fighting, but games, sports, puzzles, and contests they had never imagined. The Skarn had been fighting the same boring battles for centuries. Danny introduced them to human games like chess, football, and racing. They discovered that humans had created more interesting challenges than their entire warrior culture. The Skarn war chief said that fighting humans was like fighting themselves, Lisa added. They never got bored because humans always found new ways to compete. Now they run training academies throughout the solar system, teaching both aliens and humans new forms of competition. Dr. Hayes pulled up another file. The pattern continued with every fleet. The Netheus Shadow Fleet expected to conquer us through stealth and trickery. Instead, Colonel Sarah Willis introduced them to human mystery novels and detective stories. They were amazed that humans created complex puzzles and tricks just for entertainment. "What about the Brutagen clans?" asked a young officer. "They loved our engineering projects," Amy replied. Commander Matt Stevens showed them how humans build massive structures like skyscrapers, bridges, and space stations. The Brutagon had only ever built things for war. When they saw that humans built beautiful, complex things just because they could, they abandoned their raiding lifestyle and became the best construction workers in the solar system. Lisa walked back to the window and looked down at Earth. But now she could also see the alien structures in orbit, beautiful crystal formations built by the Hive, training facilities created by the Skarn, and massive construction projects led by the Brutagon. Every species that came to destroy us found something they didn't know they needed, she said. The Hive found beauty. The Skarn found better challenges. The Nethes found intellectual stimulation. The Brutagon found purpose beyond destruction. She turned back to her team. That's why no one returns from assaulting Earth. It's not because we destroy them. It's because we give them something better than conquest. Give them a reason to stay. Dr. Hayes nodded. And now we have an investigation. Team coming. They want to know what happened to the missing fleets. What do we tell them? Lisa smiled. It was the same smile that had convinced 7 different alien species to abandon their invasion plans and become Earth's allies. We tell them the truth, she said, but we let them discover it for themselves. After all, the best way to convince someone is to let them figure it out on their own. The room fell silent as the officers considered this. Outside the window, Earth continued to turn peacefully, surrounded by the ships and stations of a dozen different alien species, all of them former enemies who had chosen to become friends. In 2 weeks, the investigation team would arrive expecting to find a mystery. Instead, they would discover that Earth's greatest weapon was something no military force in the galaxy had ever encountered: the human ability to make enemies into allies through understanding, creativity, and friendship. But first, they would have to figure that out for themselves. General Ryan Parker walked through the halls of the Alien Integration Center, watching humans and aliens work together on dozens of different projects. The building hadn't existed 5 years ago. Back then, nobody on Earth had ever seen a real alien. Now the center was home to representatives from 7 different species, all living and working peacefully alongside humans. He stopped at a large window that looked down into the main laboratory. Below him, a tall, crystal-skinned alien was teaching a group of human children how to grow living computers. The children laughed as small biocircuits sprouted from seeds in their hands. Nearby, a massive creature with rock-like skin was helping human engineers design a bridge that could bend without breaking. "It still amazes me," said Dr. Michelle Carter as she joined Ryan at the window. Ow. She was the head of the Xenocultural Studies Department, which was another thing that hadn't existed before the aliens arrived. "What amazes you?" Ryan asked.
"How natural it all looks now,"
Michelle replied. 2 years ago, people were terrified when they saw an alien on the street. Now my daughter plays games with trilopod children at school. Ryan nodded and checked his tablet. "Speaking of which, how are our newest residents settling in?" Michelle smiled. "It's better than we hoped." "Come on, I'll show you." They walked down the hall to a section marked Ethereal Wing.
Out.
Inside, the lights were dimmer and softer. The air smelled like flowers and rain. Floating in the center of the room was a creature that looked like it was made of light and mist. "This is Whisper of Stars," Michelle said. She was the commander of the Ethereal Conclave fleet that arrived 3 months ago. The floating alien turned toward them. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. "Greetings, General Parker. Dr. Carter has been most helpful in my transition." "How are you finding life here?" Ryan asked. Whisper of Stars drifted closer. "It is ... unexpected. My people came here believing that physical beings like humans were crude and simple. We thought your emotions made you weak. We planned to study you like insects before taking your world." "What changed your mind?" Ryan asked, though he already knew the answer. "Your philosophy," the alien replied. "Dr. Carter introduced me to human writings about the meaning of existence, about love, about the search for purpose. My people have lived for thousands of years, but we had never considered these questions. We thought that living longer made us wiser, but humans think deeper thoughts in their short lives than we do in our long ones." Michelle pulled out her tablet and showed Ryan a report. "The Ethereal Conclave has requested permission to establish a permanent philosophy school here. They want to study human thinking alongside our greatest philosophers." "Approved," Ryan said immediately. "What about the others?" They walked to another section of the building. Through a thick window, they could see a group of aliens that looked like giant spiders working with human scientists. The spider aliens were building something that looked like a mechanical web. "The Arachnid Collective arrived last month," Michelle explained. "They're master engineers, but they only knew how to build things for hunting and trapping. When Commander Steve Wilson showed them human architecture, buildings designed for beauty as well as function, they were fascinated. One of the spider aliens noticed them watching and waved a mechanical arm in greeting. Its name was Clicko of Mini-Gears, and it had become friends with several human engineers. They're working on a new type of space station," Michelle continued. "It will be part human design, part arachnid engineering. The most beautiful and functional station ever built." Ryan made notes on his tablet. "What about the Void Hunters?" Michelle's expression grew more serious. "That was our most challenging case. Follow me?" They took an elevator down several floors to a heavily secured section. Here, the walls were made of thick metal, and the lights were bright white. Inside a large room, a creature that looked like living shadow was sitting at a table across from a human woman. The Void Hunters were different from the others, Michelle whispered. They don't create anything. They only destroy. Their entire culture is based on ending things. Stars, planets, civilizations. They came here planning to erase Earth from existence. How did we handle them? Ryan asked quietly. Lieutenant Karen Ellis volunteered for the assignment. Our specialist in existential philosophy. Look. Through the window, they could see Karen showing the shadow creature images on a screen. The images showed human art, but not the beautiful kind they had shown to other aliens. These were images of endings, photographs of sunsets, paintings of autumn leaves falling, sculptures that showed the beauty in decay and change. Humans are the only species in the galaxy that finds beauty in endings, Michelle explained. Other race fears death and destruction, but humans write poetry about aging, create art about the changing seasons, tell stories about heroes who sacrifice themselves for others. The shadow creature, its name was in Duval Light, suddenly started moving differently. Instead of the sharp, aggressive movements Ryan had seen before, it began to flow like water. Kieran showed them that destruction could be part of creation, Michelle continued. That endings make new beginnings possible. That death gives meaning to life. The Void Hunters had never considered that their power to end things could be used to help, rather than harm. What do they do now? Ryan asked. They help us clean up space junk and dangerous asteroids, Michelle replied. They use their destruction abilities to clear paths for new construction projects. They've found purpose in controlled, helpful endings rather than meaningless destruction. Ryan was impressed. Each alien species had arrived as conquerors, convinced that humans were primitive and weak. But each one had discovered that humans possessed something their advanced civilizations lacked. They walked back to Michelle's office, passing more examples of human-alien cooperation. In one room, former Skarn warriors were teaching human soldiers new combat techniques while learning human strategies. In another, Hive bioengineers were working with human doctors to develop new medical treatments. How do we do it? Ryan asked. As they sat down in Michelle's office, how do we keep convincing these alien species to give up conquest and stay as friends? Michelle leaned back in her chair and smiled. I think it's because we're genuinely curious about them. Most species in the galaxy see differences as threats. When they meet someone unlike themselves, they want to either destroy them or make them change. But humans, we collect differences. She gestured to a bookshelf filled with reports about different alien cultures. We study other species not to find weaknesses, but to understand what makes them special. And when someone feels truly understood, when they feel like their uniqueness is valued rather than feared, they don't want to fight anymore. They want to share what they have. Ryan nodded. Each species that stays makes us stronger. Exactly. The Hive gives us biotechnology. The Skarn teach us combat skills. The Arachnids help us build better structures. The Ethereals share their philosophical insights. The Void Hunters help us solve dangerous problems. Every former enemy becomes a new strength. A chime sounded from Michelle's computer. She checked the message and her eyebrows went up. What is it? Ryan asked. Sensors have detected the investigation fleet. They'll be here in 5 days instead of 2 weeks. They're moving faster than expected. Ryan stood up. Then we'd better prepare our welcome committee. It's going to handle first contact this time. Michelle smiled. Actually, I think we should. Let our alien friends do it. The investigation team will be expecting to find humans. They won't be expecting to meet the survivors of the lost fleets. You mean let the former invaders explain what happened to them? Why not? Who better to tell the story than the aliens who lived it? Besides, Michelle said, looking out her window at the bustling integration center. They're proud of what they've become. They'll want to share their new lives with their old colleagues. Ryan grinned. The investigation team is going to get the shock of their lives. That's the idea, Michelle replied. Sometimes the best way to answer a question is to let the evidence speak for itself. Outside, former alien conquerors and human friends worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species to accomplish alone. In 5 days, their old enemies would arrive expecting to find a mystery. Instead, they would discover something that would change the galaxy forever. But first, they would have to overcome their own assumptions about what it meant to be strong, what it meant to be civilized, and what it meant to be human. Commander Zexai stood on the bridge of her stealth ship, staring at the screen in complete shock. Her 3 eyes blinked rapidly as she tried to process what she was seeing. The investigation fleet had finally arrived at Earth's solar system. Expecting to find a primitive world defended by basic technology, instead, they found something impossible. "Are those readings correct?" she asked her sensor officer. "Yes, Commander," Hexaver replied, his voice shaking. "I've checked 3 times. There are over 200 alien vessels in this system, and most of them match the signatures of the missing fleets." Zexai looked at the tactical display. Ships from the crystalline hive floated near Earth's moon, but they weren't in attack formation. They were arranged in beautiful patterns, like flowers in a garden. Skarn warships moved in organized groups, but they were escorting cargo vessels instead of preparing for battle. The massive Brudigan clan ships were connected to construction platforms, building something enormous in the asteroid belt. "This makes no sense," whispered Captain Vortok of the Brudigan investigation ship. His deep voice rumbled through the communication channel. "Those are my clan's ships, but they're not behaving like warriors." The Crystal Empire representative, a being called Shard of Truth, spoke in musical tones. "I see hive bioships, but they're not harvesting resources. They appear to be creating art." Lieutenant Commander Craig Nelson watched the alien investigation fleet from Earth's deep space monitoring station. He smiled as he saw their ships stop and hover at the edge of the solar system, clearly confused by what they were detecting. "They're taking longer than usual to process what they're seeing," he said to Dr. Helen Tucker, who was monitoring alien communications. "Can you blame them?" Helen replied. "They expected to find wreckage and destruction. Instead, they're looking at the most successful multi-species cooperation project in galactic history." Craig activated the communication system. "The alien investigation fleet. This is Earth's deep space control. Welcome to our solar system. We've been expecting you." On the bridge of the Trilopod ship, Commander Zexai nearly fell over. "I know. We're here, but we're using full stealth. And they're speaking perfect galactic standard," added Hexfer. "How do primitive beings know our language?" Craig's voice continued calmly. "We know you're here to investigate what happened to the missing fleets. We're happy to show you. Please follow the navigation beacons to Orbital Station 1. You'll be met by some old friends." "Old friends?" Zexai repeated. "What does that mean?" The investigation fleet had no choice but to follow the beacons. As they approached Earth, they saw more impossible things. Massive space stations hung in orbit around the planet, but they weren't military bases. They looked like cities, with parks and gardens visible through transparent walls. Some stations were clearly built with alien technology, but they were integrated with human designs. Commander Hexfer said quietly, "I'm detecting life signs from the missing fleet vessels. They're all alive." "That's impossible," Zexai replied. "If they're alive, why haven't they returned home? Why haven't they sent reports?" The answer came as their ships docked with the orbital station. Waiting for them in the docking bay was a reception committee that made everyone in the investigation fleet freeze in surprise. Standing at the front was Captain Matt Stevens, human in a dark blue uniform. But beside him stood Queen Zyrex of the Crystalline Hive, war chief Gractor of the Skarn clans, and Shadow Master Vexenal of the Nethys fleet. All of them were former commanders of the missing invasion forces. "Welcome to Earth Orbital Station 1, Captain Stevens said with a warm smile. "I believe you're looking for these folks." Queen Zyrex stepped forward, her crystal skin glowing with soft light. "Commander Zexai, it is good to see you again. Trust the Galactic Council as well." Zexai stared at the Hive Queen in shock. Zyrex looked different somehow. Happier. More alive. The cold, calculating expression she had always worn was replaced by something warmer. "Your Majesty," Zexai stammered, "the Council has been worried about you. Your fleet disappeared without sending any reports. We thought you were dead." "Dead?" Zyrex laughed, a sound Zexai had never heard from her before. "Quite the opposite. I've never been more alive. Come, let me show you what we have built." Here the investigation team followed their former colleagues through the station. What they saw challenged everything they thought they knew about conquest and civilization. In one section, former hive drones were working alongside human artists, creating sculptures that seemed to sing with inner light. The art was more beautiful than anything the investigation team had ever seen. "We came here to harvest resources," Zyrex explained as they walked. "Instead, we discovered that humans create beauty for no reason other than the joy of creation. They showed us that life has meaning beyond mere survival and reproduction." War Chief Gractor led them to another section where former Skarn warriors were training with human athletes. But instead of preparing for battle, they were playing games that required both strength and strategy. "Humans taught us that there are better challenges than endless war," Gractor said, his scarred face showing genuine happiness. "They create competitions that test every aspect of ability, not just the power to destroy. I've learned more about true strength in 2 years with humans than in 50 years of conquest." Shadow Master Vexenal appeared seemingly from nowhere, startling the investigation team. But instead of the cold, calculating spy they remembered, Vexenal seemed almost playful. "The humans showed us their mystery stories and puzzle games," Vexenal explained. "They create complex problems just to solve them for fun. Their minds work in ways that constantly surprise us. It is far more interesting than simple espionage." Captain Stevens watched as the investigation team struggled to understand what they were seeing. "I know it's a lot to take in," he said kindly. "Your friends here had the same reaction when they first arrived. But why didn't they report back to the council?" asked Captain Vortok of the Brutagen. "Why did they stay here instead of completing their missions?" "Right. Because they found something better than conquest," Stevens replied. "They found purpose, friendship, and the chance to be part of something greater than any single species could achieve alone." Dr. Helen Tucker joined the group, carrying a tablet filled with data. Each species that came here was searching for something, even if they didn't realize it. The Hive wanted beauty and meaning. Skarn wanted worthy challenges. The Nethies wanted intellectual stimulation. We simply offered them what they were really looking for. The investigation team spent the next several hours touring the station and meeting with members of the supposedly missing fleets. Each conversation revealed the same pattern. The aliens had come as conquerors, but had chosen to stay as friends. As the day ended, Commander Zexai found herself in the station's observation deck, looking down at Earth. The planet was surrounded by the combined fleets of 7 different species, all working together on peaceful projects. "How?" she asked Captain Stevens, who had joined her at the window. "How did you convince them all to give up their missions?" Stevens smiled. "We didn't convince them of anything. We just showed them who we really are. Humans have always been collectors of knowledge, of stories, of friends. When someone comes to visit us, even if they come as enemies, we try to understand what they need. And when people feel understood, when they feel valued for who they are, rather than feared for what they might do, they usually prefer friendship to conquest." Zexai looked at him carefully. "And what about us? What do you think we need?" "That's for you to discover," Stevens replied. "But I have a feeling you'll figure it out. After all, you came here seeking answers. That tells me you're curious, thoughtful, and brave enough to question what you've always believed. Those are exactly the qualities that make the best friends." Outside the window, ships from across the galaxy worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species to accomplish. The investigation team had come looking for evidence of destruction. Instead, they had found proof that the galaxy's greatest weapon wasn't technology or military might. It was the simple human ability to turn enemies into friends through understanding and acceptance. But the real test was still to come. Would the investigation team return to the Galactic Council with this incredible news? And if they did, would the Council believe them? Commander Zexai stood before the Galactic Council, her hands shaking as she held the datapad containing her report. The Great Hall was silent, filled with hundreds of alien representatives waiting to hear what had happened to the missing fleets. She had been gone for 3 months, and her return had caused excitement and fear throughout the galaxy. "Speak, Commander," said the Prime Observer, his ancient voice echoing through the chamber. Tell us what you discovered at Earth. Zexai took a deep breath. Honored council members, I have found the missing fleets. All of them. Every ship. Every crew member, they are alive and well. A wave of shocked voices filled the hall. Admiral Cricksdell slammed his hand on the table. Where are they? Why haven't they returned? Are they prisoners? Oh, Admiral, Zexai replied quietly. They are not prisoners. They have chosen to stay at Earth of their own free will. The hall erupted in angry shouts and confused questions. Many council members stood up, waving their arms or tentacles in disbelief. The spider-like representative hissed loudly. That is impossible. No warrior would abandon their duty. I thought the same thing, Zexai said, raising her voice above. The noise, but I have seen the truth with my own eyes. The humans did not defeat our fleets through warfare. They defeated them through something far more powerful. The Prime Observer raised his hand for silence. Explain. Zexa activated her datapad and images filled the air above the council chamber. The aliens saw the orbital stations around Earth. The mixed fleets working together, the combined alien and human crews, building incredible structures in space. Humans do not conquer through force, she continued. They conquer through understanding. Each species that went to Earth found something they did not know they needed. The crystalline hive discovered the joy of creating art for beauty alone. The Skarn clans found challenges more interesting than endless war. The Nethi's fleet learned that intellectual puzzles could be more satisfying than spying and trickery.
Captain?
Vortak of the Brutagen stepped forward. He had been part of the investigation team and had chosen to return with Zexai to report to the council. She speaks the truth. I spoke with my own clan brothers who had been missing for 2 years. Are happier than I have ever seen them. They build magnificent structures with the humans, creating things of beauty and function that neither species could make alone. Admiral Cricksdell's red eyes glowed with anger. You speak of happiness and beauty, but what about honor? What about duty to the Empire? What about growth? Zexai replied firmly. Admiral, in 3 months at Earth, I learned more about my own people than in 30 years of military service. The humans showed me that our greatest strength, our intelligence, was being wasted on conquest when it could be used for creation. She pressed another button, and new images appeared. These showed trilopod engineers working with human scientists, designing ships that were faster and more beautiful than anything either species had built before. The humans invited me to stay, Zexa continued.
Ow.
They offered to teach our people. Their methods of cooperation and creation I almost accepted. The hall fell silent. Even Admiral Cricksdell looked shocked. Why didn't you? Asked the Prime Observer. Because I realized that the galaxy needs to know about this, Zexai replied. Earth has solved the fundamental problem that has caused war between species for millions of years. They have learned how to turn enemies into allies without force, without conquest, without making anyone give up what makes them unique. On Earth, President Karen Martinez stood before a joint session of the United Nations and the Integrated Species Council. Representatives from 8 alien species sat alongside human delegates, all working together to address the challenges facing their growing alliance. We have received word that the Galactic Council is debating whether to accept our invitation to peaceful contact, she announced. Some council members are interested in learning our methods. Others see our approach as a threat to their traditional ways. Admiral Lisa Martinez, now serving as Earth's Chief of Galactic Relations, stood up. Madam President, our long-range sensors detect massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. It appears that the younger species are withdrawing from several Council military alliances. They want to establish direct contact with Earth. Queen Zyrex of the Crystalline Hive spoke next, her crystalline voice clear and musical. The old ways of conquest and domination are failing. Species across the galaxy are tired of endless wars and empty victories. They have heard about what we have built here, and they want to be part of it. War Chief Gractor nodded his massive head. My people have sent word to warrior clans throughout the galaxy. They speak of Earth as a place where true strength is measured not by what you can destroy, but by what you can create and protect. Commander Troy Wilson, head of Earth's Galactic Relations Division, activated a large display screen. It showed a map of the galaxy with dozens of star systems highlighted in different colors. "We have received formal contact requests from 47 different species," he reported. "Some are small colonies seeking protection from larger empires. Others are entire civilizations that want to learn our cooperation methods. We also have reports that 3 major galactic powers are considering breaking away from the traditional council structure." Back at the Galactic Council, the debate had been raging for hours. Some species demanded immediate military action against Earth, calling the human influence a threat to galactic order. Others argued for peaceful contact and study of human methods. Commander Zexhai watched as the council split into 2 clear factions. The older, more traditional species wanted to maintain the current system of territorial expansion and military dominance. The younger species were fascinated by the possibility of a different way. "The humans are not trying to conquer us," she said during a brief moment of quiet. "They are offering us a choice. We can continue fighting each other for resources and territory, or we can work together to build something greater than any of us could achieve alone." Admiral Crixtal stood up, his face dark with anger. "What happens to our military strength? What happens to our empires if we follow this human path of cooperation?" "We become stronger," replied Captain Vortok. "I have seen ships built by human-alien cooperation that are more advanced than anything our empires have ever produced. I have seen defensive systems that protect entire star systems. I have seen art and architecture that inspire hope instead of fear." The prime observer, who had been silent for most of the debate, finally spoke. "The choice before us is clear. We can continue the old ways of conquest and competition, or we can risk something new. The question is, do we have the courage to change?" The vote was close, but the result changed galactic history forever, by a narrow margin. The Galactic Council voted to establish peaceful contact with Earth and to study human methods of interspecies cooperation. 6 months later, the first Galactic Peace Conference was held in orbit around Earth. Representatives from over 100 species gathered to sign the Cooperation Accords, a document that established new principles for interspecies relations based on mutual benefit rather than conquest. Admiral Lisa Martinez watched from the observation deck as ships from across the galaxy arrived for the conference. Each vessel was different, representing the unique culture and technology of its species. But they all flew the same flag, a simple design showing multiple stars connected by lines of light, representing the new alliance. "It's hard to believe," said Dr. Helen Tucker, joining Lisa at the window. 5 years ago, we were a single species, trapped on one planet. Now we're the center of a galactic alliance. We're not the center, Lisa corrected with a smile. We're just the glue that helps hold it all together. The real strength comes from everyone working together. Outside, construction crews made up of dozens of different species were building the largest space station ever conceived. It would serve as the permanent headquarters for the Galactic Cooperation Alliance, a place where any species could come to seek help, share knowledge, or find new friends. The station's design incorporated elements from every member species, creating something that was both beautiful and functional. At its heart was a great library containing the collected knowledge, art, and stories of hundreds of worlds. It was humanity's gift to the galaxy, the idea that sharing wisdom made everyone stronger. As Lisa watched the construction work, thought about the question that had started it all: why no one returned from assaulting Earth? The answer was simple, but profound. No one returned because Earth offered something better than conquest. It offered the chance to be part of something greater, to contribute unique gifts to a growing community, and to find purpose beyond destruction. The galaxy would never be the same. For the first time in its long history, the stars were united, not by fear or force, but by friendship and mutual respect. And at the center of it all was a small blue planet whose greatest weapon had always been its willingness to see enemies as potential friends. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun.